you are the authority on yourself, and I'm giving you permission to like be your own
Yeah.
authority. Sometimes I will actually get sad when I'm eating because I'm like, oh my God, this dish was so good, but I like improv the whole thing and I will never be able to recreate this is the best waffle that I've ever had and it's already almost over and I'm like happy and sad at the same time. Whereas it laughs at me, but I'm like, you don't understand, this is so good.
Welcome to People Watching, a podcast where we figure out what it looks like to become the role model we've always wanted by talking with real people who have found real role models in their own lives. I'm Megan Robinson. Every week, I sit down with a guest, and together we cut through all the noise and identify better sources of hope, creativity, and wisdom as we learn to make decisions about the kind of life we want to live. So join us. Let's do some people watching. My guest today is Marie Poulin, and y'all, I'm so excited. They say you should never meet your heroes, but this one turned out pretty stinking awesome. I've been following Marie online for 4 or 5 years now, ever since I discovered Notion as a tool for my personal productivity and thinking. And I have learned so much from Marie. Not just about how to build and work in Notion, but also about how to explore and understand how my brain, energy, and creativity work. Marie is the co-founder of Oki Doki and the creator of Notion Mastery, an online program and community that helps creators, entrepreneurs, and small teams tame their work and life chaos by building life and business management systems with Notion and supporting technologies. When she's not tinkering in Notion or doing live trainings, you can find her in the garden, playing softball, or cooking up some delicious vegetarian tacos, which y'all know we will be talking about. Marie and I talked about how entrepreneurship is the ultimate self-development journey, about how her ADHD diagnosis put so much about her personal history into perspective, and about how role models give us the space and the freedom to fully express ourselves. Of course, we also nerded out a bit about Notion. One of the beautiful strengths of Marie's presence in the Notion productivity and personal development space is that she truly demonstrates how any tool that works for you can become your personal conversation partner. One of the things that I really took away from this conversation with Marie is just what a teacher she is. And I think that this comes from her lifelong love for learning, her deep curiosity about herself, about the world, about other people, and her generosity in being able to translate her learning into insights that truly resonate with others and help them flourish in their own lives. So I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I did. And we're in the studio. So as we get started, I always love to share with guests the touchstones, expectations, or pop-up rules for our conversation, for each other, for our listeners. So Marie, would you start us off by reading the first bit of text, and then we can alternate?
Absolutely. Whatever we share is by invitation, not obligation. If either of us is not comfortable pursuing a topic, let's just say, I'd prefer not to share. Thank you.
Yes. And silence is also a partner in our conversation. Feel free to take a moment to reflect without immediately filling the space with words. Leave room for the inner teacher to whisper too.
Be present as fully as possible. This is a space to acknowledge our doubts, fears, and failings as much as it is a space to share our joys, convictions, and successes.
And ask open, honest questions. If we're not sure what the other meant in the question or statement, ask. It gives us a chance to clarify or rephrase. And ask questions that we genuinely don't know the answer to. Surprise is a great catalyst of insight. Was that the time that you started Notion Mastery, or had you done Notion Mastery before your YouTube channel, or were those concurrent?
So 2018, that's when we were starting to play around with Notion and we were managing our own business with Notion. And
Mhm.
the end of 2018, I think it might have been 2019, I forget, where we decided to run a webinar for fun. Here's how we run our business in Notion. And it caught the
Mhm.
attention of the Notion COO who reached out. He's, hey, do you want to chat? And within a couple months of doing that webinar and just the amount of people and volume that were like, hey, look, can I pay you to like teach me how to use Notion? It was so ravenous. I was like, I need something about this because people are consuming the YouTube videos and they're asking for more. So it feels like this
Right,
is prime time for a course. And so that
right.
was around the time that that friend of mine was like, you got to start your YouTube channel now. So I think I
Yeah.
started it in like September of I think 2018 or 2019. Again, it was like right before COVID. And I committed to doing one video every week for at least 12 weeks. I don't even know how I did that because I don't think I have the energy to do it again. But I was like,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
every week, gonna go. And I committed to it. I did it. And it created this surge, right? Because YouTube's, oh, great. This is a consistent, we see this person is showing up and they reward and show more of your
Yeah,
content.
yeah.
It grew my list. And I said, okay, I'm just going to run an experiment. And I just said, I'm going to make a course about Notion. If you're interested, it's going to be, I think it was $250. And I hadn't written any content yet. And it made $10,000 in a week without just like a mention on Twitter. And the course wasn't made yet. I was like, okay, now I need to do this. And I need to figure out like, there's just so much energy around it. And I thought,
Okay.
okay, this is going to be a chapter of my life. I think it's time to double down on this. I'm going to say to
Uh,
clients I've gotten to go or finish up those projects. And I'm going to pivot
yeah,
toward this as an experiment and let's just see where it goes. I figured it would
yeah.
have a lifespan on it, but I thought, what if I just went
Mm,
all in, did a course, like really doubled down on it, grew it, did the YouTube channel, and just tried this going all in on one thing versus like testing the water with all these little things. And so
yeah,
it just
yeah,
kind of exploded from there. So it felt like runaway train that kind of took over the business, but it felt right. And it felt like the first time that there was an ease, there was like me just expressing like, hey, here's how I'm solving this problem for myself. And people were
yeah,
getting really excited about it. So it was again, discovering the ADHD, discovering the funny tendencies and the ways of doing
yeah,
things that was like attracting some attention. And it was a process to figure out how can I do this in a way that I'm not putting on the YouTuber face and not following all those
right.
rules and optimizing the thumbnail. There's a whole world there that I'm like, I don't think I fit into some of the cult of personality of these productivity
Yeah,
YouTubers, but could I do it in a way that feels really good for me where, hey, I'm just sharing what I'm learning. We're just having fun
yeah,
here. And so I
yeah,
think
yeah,
it became a different voice for people that were like, one, it's nice to hear like a female voice in productivity as well. It's not so, I don't even know what you call it,
get
but
up
there's like
at
the
4 a.m. and do
hustle
these
bro.
funny things by 4
Yes.
4:40.
I was like, I'm struggling with this. Here's how I'm working around it. But it was very honest and I think people really related to it. So it just
Yeah,
opened up a whole
yeah.
new chapter for me. Yeah.
And I think it's just interesting because your story is an interesting case study in this like online influence without being an influencer.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
I just had a conversation with a friend the other day. Who said she's been following my work similarly because she feels like the introvert behind the scenes that's working with her clients and they're the sort of leaders that are like more visible. And so she's, I always like to watch what you're doing because I feel like you're similar to me, where there's like how she worded it, like lowercase L leader or something, where you're like, there's like a quiet leadership, like you're not so
Yeah.
interested in having the attention on you, but I'm interested in having impact. And sometimes that
Yeah.
does mean making yourself uncomfortable and putting yourself out
Yeah.
there in different ways. So like it's been a interesting, I think running a business on the internet and being an entrepreneur is the ultimate self-development journey. Like you're working through all your shadow stuff because you're like, is this ego? Is this a desire to help people? Like, where is this coming from? And why am I
Yeah.
afraid? Is this good
Yeah.
fear? All of it. You're like unpacking it constantly.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
journey.
It's been interesting. I was having dinner with a friend of mine not too long ago, and she's a little bit older than I am. And she just like point blank said to me in a very kind way, but it's not here to teach you. We're here to teach each other.
Mm,
And I really, it just was one of those things that's brought up for me. Oh, you know what? Like, I'm not, in essence, owning my own authority to walk into a room. Like, for lack of a better
Interesting.
way of saying it.
Yes.
I had an over 20-year career that I built up, but it was fine. I enjoyed it. I got into a place where I was able to do a lot more of what I enjoyed and less of what I didn't. But I left that partly due to the PTSD. I'm not married right now. I don't have children. I don't have a doctor before my name, all this stuff. And so it was all those things that kind of socially tend to confer status or authority. Like I don't have those. And in some respects, I deliberately don't have those. So but I also am like, what do I have authority on? What am I resting on? Does that make sense? Does that kind of,
Yes.
yeah.
I think it does. Yeah, keep going. Yeah.
Yeah, no, so I was just saying that I think what what you've been talking about in your own experience of kind of finding your authority in this space and that it looks very different from what it's supposed
The
to.
gurus.
So I'm just, it's resonating for me. It's just as someone who's also trying to figure all this stuff out and find a way to get done the things that need to get done and not expend a lot of energy or effort. Like just do it. Yeah.
Yes, I think the authority thing, it's such an interesting conversation. And I think, I don't know if there was like a turning point to it in the beginning of the course where you could feel that people like they want the right answer. What's the right way to set up my
Mm,
notion such that I will be a productive person and then it's locked and loaded? And what I realized in the teaching is I can't teach people to use my exact system because my system is so tailor-made to my brain that it's going to look like absolute chaos for someone else to try and adhere to my weird little system. It's based on my weird habits and whatever. So there was something about realizing there was an opportunity in the course to get people to discover more about their needs and give them
mhm.
permission, because again, I've gotten so much value from role models that they've shown and given me permission to show up in whatever way I want to. So I'm trying to model that in a way for even people with ADHD on the spectrum. There's so many different types of people with ADHD and how it shows up and the sort of
Yeah.
oppositional defiance and the like, they make a system, but then they're mad at the system. Don't tell me what to do, even though you're telling yourself what to do. So there's all these like funny
Sure.
qualities about it that like it is humorous. And so I'm like, I can't tell you the right way to set up your library and your tags and your knowledge management system. I can show you what works and I can talk you through and I'll think out loud to share how I do it. But I think what's fun too is my husband and I have very different brains. Ben is the kind of person that does what he says he's going to do, and he always has an inbox zero, and he has a methodical way of thinking about things, and he can handle number. We bring very different things to the table, so
Hmm.
we can screen share the same dashboard, but Ben's looks completely different than mine, but we're using the same components. And so we decided to, how do we bring more of that into the course to be like, if you tend to be a visual person who likes XYZ, here's one way that you might approach that. And then show Ben's example. If you're very methodical and logic driven and whatever, here's a different way of doing that. So it's very confronting for students to come in, I think, because they're like, they want the right answer. Here's how to do it
Yeah.
and tell me the right thing to do. But I
Hmm.
wanted it to be more like a dialogue with yourself where you're asking yourself, do I need these 10 formula properties on my to-do list to tell me that a thing is overdue? Is that helping you? And
Yeah.
have it almost be more of like a journaling process along the way.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of my beliefs or maybe strong opinions or even opinions about like anti-productivity come through in the course of I just want you to think about what makes sense for you to do,
Yeah.
not even to follow my system because it's not necessarily going to help you. It might actually add 10x more complexity than you need. I try to get people to. So there's
Yeah.
like a weird authority. You are the authority on yourself, and I'm giving you permission to like be your own
Yeah.
authority. It's
Yeah.
like a weird,
Yeah.
yeah.
Interesting. Actually, I was just remembering while you were talking, I think you had posted a video or shared somewhere about an emotions database where you journal with
Yeah,
in
feelings. Yes,
right.
yeah.
Remember, I did that for probably 2 years, and I'm just remembering that was actually another component of my looking at and asking about PTSD diagnosis
Oh,
because
yeah,
I had done my
noticing.
annual review, and I think tired and burnt out showed up probably over 50 times,
Wow.
like, over the year,
Yeah.
and it was increased from the year before. And I was like,
You're like, I'm seeing a pattern here.
yeah. And I think that's one of the things that youth demonstrate really well using this particular tool. And it just so happened to be Notion. I feel like you or anybody, could find a tool, could probably do a similar thing in Airtable, or I forget one of the other many millions that are popping up.
For money.
Right.
Yeah.
I can't, but I think you've done a really good job of showing how these tools really can help you have that conversation with yourself. And I think that's such a fascinating way of even updating the idea of journaling, the
Yeah.
handwriting, and just showing people, for the people who are like really want that kind of maybe purpose built data for them. I got to a point in my own Notion system where I was I had been tracking a lot of health stuff for a while. And after a while, I just was like, I'm not sure what this is telling me. I'm not sure why I'm collecting this anymore. But that
It's
was
like
an
inputs one piece
conversation.
of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And to realize maybe it seemed like a good idea, or maybe it's not showing me the patterns, or also it also depends on the questions you ask. And I feel like when you build a
Absolutely.
Notion, you are learning to ask the question. It's one of the absolute best lessons I ever learned when I was in undergrad. I was doing a thesis and I went to the library, and one of the research librarians, it's like, computers are stupid. They give you what you ask for. So ask better questions.
Oh, that is even so true in the age of AI, where you're like, it's how you prompted what you're asking for that's going to completely change the
Yeah.
answer, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And
That's
so I
so
feel
funny.
like that was something that learning to build a Notion for me was showing me, like, why am I not getting the result that I want? And so but I actually had the process of building the question. Look
Yeah.
at.
Yeah. Like, why am I doing this? Why am I there's a tendency, I think, to feel that desire to do all the tracking, and everyone's setting up all these complex habit tracking systems. That's okay. That's great. But also, what is the tracking telling you?
Yeah.
I used to even have things like rate your happiness on a scale of 1 to 5. At some point, you're like, what does this number mean? What is it?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
see that I value happiness as like a thing that I want in my life. Okay, so yeah, there's a process of building that I think that's where the exciting part is. It's the friction. What is the friction telling me? There's something
Mm.
interesting here. Why am I frustrated here? Why does this make me feel inspired? And this is frustrating to me. Like all of that stuff. There's just so much richness there if you're willing to slow down and ask those
Yeah.
questions.
Yeah.
So there's
Yeah.
something
I
unique
actually
about Notion that
have,
way.
I think I have pages here where I've just been like journaling and diagramming and like trying to answer the question, why am I frustrated in this particular
Ooh,
process?
yeah.
I'm trying to get this done. If I say I'm a writer and writing is important to me, but I'm not writing, why? Is it emotional? Is it environmental? Is it mental? Is it actual tools? Because tools are not the whole answer, but they can be a huge part of the answer. Because if that's the actual point of friction. So yeah,
Exactly.
so it's just,
I
I
love that.
think that has been one of the coolest things of my own personal journey with Notion, and also in learning from you. Sometimes you would show exactly how you built something, or sometimes you would just mention, I'd be like, that's a really cool idea. Let me reverse engineer that and figure out
Yeah.
how I could build it for myself. And I love that because there is an ownership and, again, authority that comes from figuring out how you understand the world. I said to a friend of mine, I don't think I'm a very logical person. And she goes, excuse me, you build all these things in Notion. I think you're logical.
It's so interesting though. This stuff is never one or the other, right?
I'd like to circle back around and nerd it out over Notion for a second, but
Yeah.
it's easy to do. But I'd like to circle around because there's a thought, like a concept or a thought that I've been playing around with, and I'm just asking everyone, challenge it, pick it apart. What do you think? And the thought is this: Role models are those who show you what to love and how to love it.
Just right. Show you what to love and how to love it. If we bring it back to, I guess, my own belief around role models highlight the parts of ourselves that we like desire to grow or bring more attention to, then there is self-love aspect there too, where a role model is like showing you that it's okay to value the things that you already value, if that makes sense. Yeah. I don't even know if we can help who we are drawn to as role models, because I think we like are drawn to people that are showing an interest or a love or some sort of expression towards something that we are already resonating with them in some ways. Oh, look, they're showing me it's okay to talk about this thing, to champion this thing. I think we are drawn to people that maybe show us the possibilities there. Yeah.
I like that. I really like that. Like that kind of showing us either something we haven't fully acknowledged in ourselves or haven't given ourselves permission to fully flourish in it. That idea of that's already resonating is just maybe sharpening
yeah,
sharpening your attention on it a little bit.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of some of the people who maybe I've seen. There's business role models, relationship role. There's different types of role models too in different areas of our life too. And there's not always a role model that encompasses all of that, but I really like the way they show up in relationship. I love the way they show up in conversation. I love the way that person asks really good questions. I think in a way, like everyone you meet as an opportunity to be a role model in just their qualities. So I think always an aspect of, I love the way that person does that thing. And could I show up with more curiosity? Could I show up with more generosity? But maybe we're already noticing those things because we value them. So there's like a chicken egg thing there. It's interesting.
Yeah. I'll have to think about that some more.
Yeah.
I was also curious, you talk a lot about food.
I do.
And
be careful if you ask me about food.
And you've also shared a lot about your permaculture journey, your cooking journey, like the cooking schools that you've been to. We've talked about your arts background, like your expressing of creativity through that.
Yeah.
Your expressing of creativity through like systems and building your business. All of that is very creative. If you see creativity as in part problem solving, so how do I create something that doesn't exist? Like, how do I put these things together? And I'm curious how you see your cooking food journey as part of that. I hope you are enjoying the conversation so far, and I'd love to continue it with you. If there's anything that resonated in this conversation, brought up questions, or you just want to chat, I'm here. Book a free 20-minute conversation with me. I'll put a link in the description so you can find a date and a time that works for you. And then we can catch up and get to know each other. I can't wait. Thanks for being here. Now, let's get back to the conversation.
Yeah, like I think absolutely cooking is such a creative act. Like assuming you're not, there's like cooking and then there's like culinary arts, right? So there's like following a recipe and just making a thing that's in a recipe, or there's learning how to work with food, learning how to work with ingredients. And I think going to culinary school, that felt so indulgent. I'm like, this isn't part of my business. This is purely something that I love. It felt so indulgent. Rented a Airbnb in Vancouver and it was a 2-week course and you're there every day. And it was like, oh my gosh, can I let myself have this experience? It was so cool. Again, you're not cooking from recipes really, or you're learning about how do acids and fat and heat all work together? Why does something taste like it's missing something? You're learning about the craft of it such that when you go off on your own, you can remix and make your own creations. And so the idea of growing something from the garden and then actually going into the kitchen and making something from scratch that didn't exist before, I think is inherently a very creative act. And it's so nourishing too, and connecting. I feel like it ticks all the boxes of like care for the earth, caring for people, creativity. It's a form of meditation, like taking the time, like it's a break from work. There's no, it could be whatever you want it to be. And I think when I was younger, you're making food because you need to eat, you got to get back to you're doing your schoolwork or whatever. And so it can be very utilitarian. And I
Okay.
think now being at a point where business is stable and relationship is stable, it's like now it can be a form of expression and it can be a form of
Mhm.
nourishment on so many levels. So I have
Uh-huh.
an appreciation for it. I think that I didn't always when I was younger. And so
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
form of meditation to take a break from
Mhm.
everything, focus on the ingredients, notice how things look and the taste and the flavor. And I can't help it. It makes me really excited.
I love
You
it.
can tell. I get really
I
animated.
love
Yeah.
it. I There is something to that, and I think all of my work, I was gonna be a starving artist and an addict. Then I was gonna be an academic and a PhD and a career academic. And then I was in school, and then I was a school administrator, and all that
Yeah.
very always intellection and always
Mm.
at a desk and always thinking. All of my work has been heavy thinking, and
In your
possibly
head a
yours as
lot.
well.
Yeah.
And so things that get you out of your head and things that kind of reconnect you with all of your senses and reconnect you.
Yes.
And I don't know about for you. For me, it has always been really hard to connect with my body. And
Mm,
so things that help me connect with my body in a healthy way, I really appreciate now in a
definitely.
way I didn't when I was younger.
Definitely. I think I can agree with that too, especially, yeah, for folks that are just always in a really heady, that's how you make your living is a lot not in sort
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
operations and stuff. It's, I think,
Yeah.
really easy to forget or
Yeah.
now what's happening.
There's more
Yeah.
behind, there's more below here. What's it been like the permaculture? How did you get interested in that? And I think you've shared like your own, like you're doing gardening at home, is that right? Or
I have a tower garden and then we've got our backyard garden beds. But yeah, like when we moved from the city, like Vancouver to the Sunshine Coast, we bought this house. It has a half acre of land. And I had zero gardening experience, like no experience whatsoever. But the woman that we bought the house from, there were apple trees, plum trees, there's like currants, there's like things I just couldn't identify. I didn't even know what they were. But it had been really well manicured, maintained. And then suddenly we have this property. I don't know anything about pruning, planting, what's a weed, what's not. I didn't know anything about it. So I was feeling quite self-conscious. Oh no, like how do we actually care for and honor all of this work that someone before us has done? And
mm,
so it was already on my mind. And then I saw this flyer at a local coffee shop that was about permaculture. My sister had taken a course before, and another friend of mine had taken a course and said permaculture changed the way she looked at the world. I was like, that's a pretty big, bold
wow.
statement, but she's it's like a
Yeah.
lens, set of glasses that you put on that kind of changes the way you look at things and very systems oriented. It's all looking at systems of
Yeah.
energy and connection. I'm like, okay, like there were concepts in there that felt like they were resonating based on the little information that I knew. So I was like, I
Hmm.
know that it's gardening related, it's systems related, and I don't know how to take care of my garden. So let me sign up for this
Okay.
course. And I think it said, see if I can remember, it said, learn how to become a more conscious designer of your life, land, relationships while learning how to save time, energy, and money, or something like that. And I was like, well, that's a very compelling promise. Like,
Yeah,
I
that's
was
bold
sold.
claims.
And it was I think very affordable. It was like a $700 course, took place over 18 months, one full day a month, every month. And so the idea was like you would actually go back to different properties in different seasons, like see the change over time and see the
Mm,
activities that people were learning about. And it was like a way to get off the computer. You're in the earth, you're talking about these concepts while you are in the place that they're happening. You're learning about compost while you're touching the compost. We're taking classes sitting around a tree and the teacher's reading a poem. And I'm like, I love this is so out of my comfort zone. I absolutely love this.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and to feel like an absolute beginner again when you're like teaching
Mm,
online and you're like being an authority over here. And now I'm like, I don't know anything about anything. These terms that people are using, they seem to know how to recognize all these things that are growing in the earth that I have no idea. So
yeah.
it was so challenging because it was so out of my comfort zone and felt like so much information so fast. I felt stupid, but I was like, this is the place that I need to be and like soak it all in and just do what I can. So
Yeah.
how I thrive in these environments where I feel
Yeah.
really stupid because I'm
And do
to not feel stupid.
you feel
That
like
and
that
honestly,
really kicks added to your creativity or shifted it as well? Like,
Yeah, I think even like designing the garden is a creative act. What do I want to
Mm.
build? An act of creation, right? It's great.
Yeah.
What am I going to build? And then you're thinking in terms of like, space and time, how things change over
Um,
time. There's so many dimensions through which to think that it's such a brain teaser for me. It's like, how do these gardeners like know all this stuff? And how do they remember this? And I'm like taking so many notes about all these plants and things. And I was using Notion to try to, but at the end of the day, there's no substitute for just like getting your hands dirty and getting
yeah.
in there. So taking notes on the permaculture studies was the beginning of my Notion journey. That was the place where I was like, okay, there's paper notes, there's books, there's like inventories, there was just so much stuff. I needed a place to keep it all together.
Yeah.
So that was the beginning for me. I have some pretty fun dashboards for my permaculture learning and my diploma and stuff like that too. So it to me, it is a very creative area of my life where
Yeah.
I still feel very much like a beginner right now.
Do you have anything from your garden that you're able to cook with yet?
At the moment, I've just filled up the beds again with compost and whatnot. And last year I had an injury that definitely made it challenging to stay on top of the
Okay.
garden, like a hip injury. So even just bending
Oh
was
no.
excruciating. So we didn't get the garden ready
Yeah.
as well as we'd like
Yeah.
to, but this year should be good. And I have a indoor tower garden, so we grow lettuce, spinach, herbs
Okay.
indoors so that we can have those year round. So that's pretty great. My
Yeah.
dream would be to have my garden growing in the backyard and have a dinner party and serve friends a multi-course vegetarian meal mostly based on food that I've grown in the garden. I think that would be such a cool experience to give to like close friends and family.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm based in Charlotte, North Carolina, and there is a small garden here in the city from a woman who gardener, landscaper, and she designed and laid out and planted the
Mm,
garden so that something would bloom and flourish every day of the
that
year.
is amazing. That would be the
And
dream. Yeah.
and it was really neat to see that and because I'm not a gardener, I'm not an outdoors person.
Like it's such a sensory experience because you really have to be paying attention like all year long. You're like, what does the garden need? What does this plant
Mm,
need? Different plants need different things. So there is, again, it's like a form of mindfulness, I think, in a way that you're constantly in a state of noticing what is
mhm.
happening, what's needed, what's not needed, what resources. Okay, do we need more water? It does force you to slow down and pay attention. And so I think
Yeah.
I like that it's a bit of a mindfulness, slow down, pay attention, like the buzzing of being on the computer, always working on stuff. It gets me out of that bubble.
Yeah. Going back to your culinary journey, what was your favorite aspect of doing that? You said you did it was a
Mm,
2-week experience for you. What was your favorite aspect of that? And then what stayed? Not everything
mm,
can
yeah.
transport back home, but what did?
Yeah, a couple things. One was the whole experience culminates in a 7-course meal that you serve to
Right.
family. You pick 2 family and friends. And so you know that you're building up to that you're going to design a menu at the end of it based on all the skills that you've learned throughout. I thought that was like a really fun exercise and just,
Yeah.
okay, we have to be thinking
Yeah.
about this. And I
Yeah.
think there's lots of parts that stuck, but it's more about like, how do you build flavor? How do you
Okay.
like, a really simple example would be like we're making a sauce together and then everyone gets a chance to taste the sauce. And then as a group, you're like, what does it need? What's missing?
That
What would you do? And then someone would be like, oh, it needs salt. Okay, there's lots of different ways to add salt to a dish or add acidity. You could have a flavored vinegar. You could have lemon juice. You could so many different ways to build. You're kind of choosing if it's an Asian dish, maybe I want to use a Chinese black vinegar, or maybe I want to use a squirt of lime. What are the flavor profiles that make sense and kind of complement one another? So you go and you add salt and everyone tastes it again. And then you're like discussing as a group what's missing, what's needed. So you're in a way intellectualizing a little bit of okay, what you're learning how things get connected, but then you're getting to taste it and discuss it and understand it. So it really felt like I'm understanding the underlying system underneath flavor such that now I can freestyle a bit more because I understand adding sweetness is not just adding sugar. It could be adding banana. It could be adding like anything that adds sweetness. So it's like learning the underlying components under things so that you can get more creative.
Yeah. I love that because I'm not a great cook. There's challenging, intriguing, where this is weird and difficult, but there's something about it. I want to keep going. And then there's challenging, frustrating.
Do you tend to follow recipes? Do you have your certain dishes that you go to and make often, or what's your
Yeah,
go-to?
yeah. I'm very much what's also uh, inhibiting in a way is I'm the only one who likes certain cuisines. And
Ah,
so
yeah.
nobody else really likes curry. Nobody else really likes sushi. Nobody.
Scandals, yeah.
Um, so I have to experiment in very small amounts. And so it's on the one hand, I pick recipes that I want to try, but I also am not sure I have enough skill to try.
It's tough because
I
it's like
do
you
kind
build the skill by doing and experimenting too, right? So you have to
of,
trust and
yes,
be willing to mess it up.
yeah. And, it's I do tend to follow recipes. I'm the kind of person who's just follow the recipe as written the first time. Learn it, understand what's going on, and
Learn the
then play
rules before
around.
you break them.
Yeah, exactly. And I finally were like, I was telling someone once, I said, I always liked baking more than I liked cooking. And I've realized like baking is like a symphony orchestra. Like you still have timing, you still have to listen and pay attention, but it's very clear when something goes wrong.
Yes. Oh,
Cooking,
forgot the baking powder. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, very clear. Cooking is like jazz.
Yeah.
Really have to be listening. And it's all about
Yeah.
timing and it's all about being able to respond and improvise in a way. And I think
Mm.
both my interest and my skill level are just not quite at the
That's fair.
improvisational.
Yeah, yeah. I love that analogy, and
I love that idea of building flavor. And I think my brain is tickling with something about nuance and attention. And it's not quite there
mm,
yet, but I really like that idea. I love that because good flavor is really complex. It has,
exactly.
it really does have a lot of layers, and good flavor hits different parts of your taste, like your tongue and your taste
Totally.
buds. And, like something tastes good on the first bite, and then 2 seconds later, you're like, whoa.
Oh wait, that one had more pickle in it or something. And yeah, it's sometimes I will actually get sad when I'm eating because I'm like, oh my God, this dish was so good, but I like improv the whole thing and I will never be able to recreate this is the best waffle that I've ever had, and it's already almost over, and I'm like happy and sad at the same time. My husband laughs at me, but I'm like, you don't understand, it's just so good. So you have
I
like
know.
overactive taste buds. I'm like, oh my God, I just get so sick of
Yeah.
flavor.
There
Yeah.
have been a couple of meals where, because like when I travel, I love to go someplace that is there. It's like the local, you
The
can't find
local,
it
yeah.
anywhere else. And then
What would be
of
your
course,
go-to?
yeah. And then
What's your
the
like,
hard part is you never come back there and you can't ever get that
yeah,
wonderful dish ever again.
yes. So it's a memory you have to like embed and appreciate, and yeah. What
Yeah.
would be do you have a favorite that you've gone to, or like a type of cuisine that you're like, oh, that was like your favorite local?
Will always be Lebanese food.
Oh,
Always.
yes.
Always. I grew up in DC and there was like a small local chain and it was just the best Lebanese food. They had this lentil soup. I have
Mm,
not been able to find it or duplicate it. And it
mm.
was lentils and potatoes, spinach. They got this lemon, like the squirt of lemon that just brightened the
Pulls it
whole.
all together, right? Yes.
Yeah. And I can't
Yeah.
do it. I cannot
Mm.
replicate it.
It's all the garnishes and the flavor bases and things that, toasting the spices first and then a little bit of oil and all these little things that just totally amplify something. Each restaurant has their own little way of
Yeah.
doing it.
So there you are. So the lentil soup there, and then they did umali for the dessert, which is like this. They did orange flower water. Like umali is like a phyllo and custard, and usually rose water is often. But they did orange flower water and pistachio and
Speaking my language, yeah.
what about you? You always look for a certain cuisine or a certain dish when you travel?
Definitely a sucker for Mexican. I do love Mexican food. But the best meal of my life was a Turkish platter in Japan. And it was a Turkish owned place. I had really high reviews. I was looking for a place that served vegetarian, and everything's like custom made by the chef. He's just like, yeah, tell me your preferences, and he just goes off and makes something. And he brought my husband and I this like giant dish, and it was like a platter of all the best dips, like labneh and hummus and like a cheesy bread. But it was like a bread that he made from scratch. Like everything was just made from scratch. And then I think my husband had some lamb pizza or something like that. And every bite was like, this is not just regular hummus. Like level of care in
Yeah.
Japan that they have in restaurants. I swear every meal that I ate in Japan was like, this is good. The quality. I was
Yeah.
just like, I couldn't
Oh,
believe it. They have a level of care and attention to their ingredients, and there's like watching them prepare the food. Most restaurants that you go to, you actually get to watch the chefs make your food too.
okay.
And they just, the quality there is just so different. It's so
Yeah.
impressive, so
Yeah.
beautiful. It feels like an art.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw a video online. It was this guy talking about how he went into a school in Japan and like the teacher, like they have to, like the Japanese government designed and just set a law that schools have to have a nutritionist as part of their teaching staff.
Whoa.
And so this is an additional qualification that a teacher would get on top of their teaching.
Oh, wow.
And then like from 3, 4, 5 years old, children in the Japanese schools, the school has to make every meal from scratch that day. They can't use leftovers. They can't use from the day before. Every
That's
meal
very
is from.
impressive.
I know. I was like, how does that's a small island, so I guess they can scale that okay. But I'm trying because I'm just Canada, US. I'm thinking my mind immediately goes to how do you roll that out? But and then the children learn about nutrition. They learn about building a health, like a balanced meal and all that stuff. And I was just like, because he was like, the point of the video I think was like, why don't they have obesity in
Mm,
Japan? And part of it's processed foods, obviously,
sure.
but very clearly it was an intentional decision, like a systemic decision to build in how do you teach about healthy eating habits? How do you teach about food and how to put it together? And I love, as someone who doesn't like being outside, I still am like, I feel like I'm slowly coming into an appreciation for
Mm,
honoring what comes from the creation and
yeah.
what comes out of the earth. And I love that that lesson is getting baked in at a
Mhm.
very early age. So
Yes.
for you to even see that on a visit to
It's so
just
cool.
in the restaurants, to that's clearly very well
They
cultivated.
care. They care a lot. Yeah, it's just really
Yeah.
cool to see, how differently
Yeah.
cultures treat these different things.
Yeah. I have two more questions. Two questions. Next to the last one. What about this conversation has been most helpful for you?
Um, I think what's interesting is sometimes when you ask a question, you don't know how you're going to answer. Even the thing about role models, realizing, for example, that like role models are showing something that I like already
Yeah.
value in myself. There's aspects of that. I'm like, oh, that just came out. I didn't know that was there. So yeah, I think you just ask really thoughtful questions, and yeah, it's been a really lovely conversation. So I think every question has some element of, oh, I'm gonna think about that later,
Yeah.
but thinking about how I think about role models is gonna be
Yeah.
something that I'm gonna be like questioning and asking myself.
Oh, cool. Yeah, it was
That's
cool.
yeah.
And then what will probably be your favorite question? What is the story of the best or the worst taco you have ever had?
The best or worst. This is like asking someone to pick their favorite children. I don't
Oh,
know how like favorite child. I do eat a lot of tacos. I can share maybe just a couple days ago, I made probably what I think was one of the best tacos that I ever made, and it was a harissa baked tofu. So you crumble the tofu, you soak it in harissa paste, homemade harissa paste, you bake it. It feels like chicken, so it's like a veggie chicken taco with harissa flavoring and like a coleslaw with some squirt of lime juice and a bit of a yogurt tahini drizzle.
oh my heavens. Oh my heavens.
I
Oh,
loved it.
that's
I make tacos like at least a couple times a week. And we also have a welcome mat outside of our house that says you better have tacos. So I take tacos. What about you? What's your favorite or word? Like, do you have a terrible taco story?
So I always go back to the first time that I had fish tacos. It was at a restaurant in
Oh,
San Diego. But I think today I'm going to bring out the worst experience I had. And it wasn't even that they tasted bad. It wasn't even that there was like the flavors were off or the meat. It wasn't that. It was just that they were so bland. It was like eating
oh.
nothing.
And you're like, how do you mess up tacos? Come on.
Yeah, and it was just, I just got to the point where it's like, I just don't even want to expend the energy to eat these things. It's
That's
just
bad.
nothing. And I was so upset. I have never in my life not finished a taco.
Had a disappointing taco. Yeah, that's
And it was just like, how do you, I don't understand.
how do you mess this up?
I have literally one job. It's on the side. Your name is a taco place.
One job. Oh my gosh. Have you ever left back? Did you leave a bad review after? Was it
No,
an
I
off day that the
remember.
chef was having, or
Yeah, no, I just didn't. I was just like, my plate was still almost full, and the guy walked by and he was like, "Are you done?" Yeah.
and I hate doing that, but it's like when it's that bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it
I'm
wasn't
so
even
sorry
like
you had that experience.
I more than made up for it. I found good tacos. Like, trust me, I seek them out. But yeah, I just at least now I know that if I ever make it to Sunshine Coast of Canada, you won't be surprised to find me going, "Hey, Marie."
Oh, I would happily. I always tell people if you come visit, I would happily make you food. I love taking requests too. So if you have a favorite dish, maybe I'll master a lentil soup.
Guys, actually, my favorite, like back to that Middle Eastern Mediterranean, one of my absolute favorite dishes to make is shakshuka. Have you ever
Oh
made it?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I haven't made it, but I love it. Yeah.
oh, so good. It's so
Wow,
good.
maybe I'll
I
have to
went,
try it.
yes, it is so easy. And then I asked one time at an Israeli restaurant, it's like, at what point does it become not shakshuka? Like, how much room do you have to play with this recipe? And he goes, as long as you have the tomatoes and the eggs, like you can start playing around a little bit with
Interesting.
the vegetables that you add and everything. But it is so easy to make. I tend to like it a little bit thicker, so I tend to like let it stew a little bit longer. It is so good. And then if you eat regular bread, like good thick crusty bread, and you just dip it in there,
Oh, I'm gonna have to make that this weekend. You
it's so
inspired
good.
me. Yeah.
So good. Yeah.
To try
Marie,
it.
for those who may not, I don't know who they would be, those who may not know where to find you, what is the best online source to reach out to you if they want to talk with you more or learn more about your work?
You can check out my personal website is mariepoulin.com. We Are Oki Doki is the sort of company website that I run with my husband, notionmastery.com. You can usually find my first and last name on Blue Sky is probably a great place to find me. YouTube if you want to check out my Notion videos. But yeah, if you want to engage in conversation, I think Blue Sky is the social channel that I'm more active on right now. So happy
Okay.
to chat.
I've heard a lot of
Yeah.
people really enjoying Blue Sky after migrating from the other place.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I'm trying to decide if that's the one that I want to add
Yeah.
back in.
Well, let me know and say hello on there if you do decide. I'm happy to connect. Yeah.
Awesome.
It's lovely.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Marie. This has been an absolute delight.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for spending time with us today. I hope you found something that resonated with you and that encourages you to become more hopeful, creative, and wise in your own life. Make sure to check out the links in the description below and like and subscribe if you enjoy this episode. Shalom.